Yo guys, welcome back to King Ols. And yes, I've now got a special Christmas video now for you guys. We're now here for the fight of the year for 2023. So, I mean, look, there's been some great fights this year, to be completely honest with you, that have been made. But I'm not going to be saying like, the biggest fights. It's going to be the fights that, were the best quality matchups possible. And I've got my five favorite here. We're going to be starting with fifth. Then we're going to be going to number one, which will, of course, be fight of the year. So, yeah, anyway, let's get right into it. I picked out my five favorite fights that I have, of course, seen this year in 2023. Anyway, so we're going to get right onto it with Leigh Wood versus Josh Warrington at number five. I think that this has been a I think that this has got to be up there in my opinion. It was also a fantastic comeback from Leigh Wood as well. The way he was able to come back, from adversity. But they were both beating the hell out of each other no matter what. Though Warrington was getting the better of this fight earlier on, 100%, and was up on the cards. 100% winning the majority of those rounds. But to be completely honest with you, I feel like, Warrington was still taking quite a few big shots as well off of Leigh Wood. And I feel like the comeback as well makes it a real proper memorable fight, in my opinion. It's a fantastic fight. Like Leigh Wood, even though he was mostly getting battered, he was having moments. Leigh Wood obviously did win at the very end of round 7 by getting a controversial stoppage, but I do think it was the right stoppage. Warrington did turn his back. But yeah, I mean, I think it is up there. I think it is up there. Great British fight this year. Really, really, really enjoyed this one, to be completely honest with you. Absolutely fantastic fight. I think it's got to be in that top 5, and I think it is going to be 5. I think the reason that it is 5 is because, first of all, I think it had to be in there. Second of all, the reason why I decided to put it at 5 and not higher is because the majority of the fight was one-sided, but then obviously, Leigh Wood came back into it. But I feel like, the comeback from Leigh Wood to get that knockout makes it very memorable, in my opinion. So, yeah, Leigh Wood versus Josh Warrington at number 5. The next one that I have, of course, got is O'Shaquie O'Neal versus Hernandez. This one was an absolutely fantastic fight, to be completely honest with you. Foster was doing an absolutely fantastic job in this fight, to be completely honest with you. Foster, I think, Foster was boxing really, really well throughout this fight, mostly being the guy sticking to the boxing, whereas Hernandez would really go out there and put it on Fernandez and what am I on about? Would put it on Foster and really make him and really make Foster struggle a lot. So I think that played. I think that played a massive factor, to be completely honest with you, for Foster. I think Hernandez did a good job at trying to make Foster engage in his game plan by bringing it up close, getting some big shots, and made Foster trade with him. So I feel like going into those last rounds, Hernandez was up on those cards. Then obviously Foster got that really, really, really late stoppage. After that, obviously, fantastic round 11 that we saw, completely back and forth. And because of that round 11, especially as well, it's got to be in there, in my opinion. And I feel like for Foster, it was a good comeback fight from him as well, even though it was competitive, those rounds. And I feel like those rounds of this fight could have possibly been given either way. I think it was a great fight, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, great, great, great fight. Next up at number 3, we have got Joe Cordina versus Rakhimov. Fantastic one, this one, to be honest with you. Really close on the judges' scorecards as well. Joe Cordina was in 2 absolutely fantastic fights this year. Obviously, one against Rakhimov, obviously his first one. Then he went on and fought Vasquez later on in the year, which he, of course, won a very close decision to. This one was, in my opinion, a better fight with more action in it. Both guys were beating the absolute living shit out of each other. It was an absolutely fantastic fight to watch, to be completely honest with you. An absolutely fantastic fight. I think overall, Cordina did win this fight, but Rakhmonov was getting in some big moments in that fight, to be honest with you. Some big moments really hurting Cordina. I don't believe, there weren't any knockdowns in the fight, but it was really entertaining to watch. Had you on the edge of your seat for the whole time. We've had some big, good, solid British fights this year, to be honest with you. Cordina Rakhmonov, obviously, it's a fight in Britain. Rakhmonov, I believe, from Kazakhstan or something like that, I think. But yeah, look, I think it was... I think that this was an absolutely incredible fight to watch, where both guys, were getting each other on the ropes, putting in some good work, and it was good and technical at quite a few moments in this fight. But at times, they also decided to go into a war, like to trade a little bit as well. But yeah, it was a good, solid technical battle, really, to be honest with you, for the majority of it, where it's you go, I go, and then they're putting in some great work. It was an amazing fight to watch, in my opinion. And yeah, Cordina was the well-deserved winner. Next up, at number 2, I have got David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. This one was early this year, back in February, I believe. It was an amazing fight, to be honest with you. Plant was boxing well early on. But as always, though, Benavidez is always able to just come back into these fights when it goes late. And Benavidez is so great at being able to break you down. Plant, I feel like, kind of just gassed out in those later rounds. Benavidez has got a great gas tank, can go for a while, and Benavidez can take some massive shots. Plant did a really good job in this fight, to be fair. I don't think we could have really asked for any more from Caleb Plant. He did everything possible that he could to be able to, try and get this win, but he fell up short on a, close unanimous decision. But cards were close, in my opinion. Plant was doing a good job in those earlier rounds. Benavidez came back as it came late, and both guys were really going for it. Plant was trading with Benavidez at times in this fight as well, but a lot of the time at the start he was boxing, and Benavidez kind of brought Plant into his game plan, and then Benavidez was going after him, bashing him around a bit. Plant taking some absolutely massive shots, and staying up. Then Plant was firing back a bit. In this fight, trying to get some work in. I think it was an absolutely fantastic fight, but Benavidez just simply ended up outworking Caleb Plant as the fight was going on, which won it for him. And Plant was taking a big beating in the end as well. It was a fantastic fight to watch, in my opinion. Really, really, really good fight, Benavidez and Caleb Plant. Okay, that was number 2. Number 1, Arthur Beterbiev versus Anthony Yarde. I had to give this as my number 1. I remember this fight very clearly, and I've watched it back a few times as well since. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Obviously, look, I really wanted Anthony Yarde to win it as well. Obviously, Beterbiev ended up getting him out of there in round 8. But I had Yarde up, and Beterbiev was taking some big shots. Yarde was taking some massive shots, and he got dropped, then stopped. But it was a fantastic fight. This one was a real good proper war, to be honest with you. Beterbiev just keeps on coming forward. And I think we could tell, yes, eventually Beterbiev was going to be able to get Anthony Yarde out of there, because he was going to be able to wear him down. And Anthony Yarde was doing all of his good work early on, and then was eventually starting to gas out. And Beterbiev was, waiting and picking his big moments where Anthony Yarde was going for it. Boxing quite well as well behind his jab, Anthony Yarde. But Beterbiev was so good at being able to break down that body of Anthony Yarde, which I do think played a factor. But his shots were really good upstairs as well. Anthony Yarde was doing a great job, and Beterbiev was taking some massive shots. To be fair, I think, there were times in this fight where it was like, oh, Anthony Yarde could actually do it here. But no, unfortunately, he wasn't able to. Beterbiev ended up, weathering the storm and just came back and, just ended up outworking Yarde and, and ended up making him tired, because Beterbiev was taking massive shots. And he was making Yarde miss quite a bit as well. But yeah, I feel like both guys did a great job, and it was a real mix of emotions watching this fight, to be honest with you. It was a real mix of emotions. Especially, as I wanted Yarde to win. I was like, he might be able to do it here, but no, Beterbiev came back into it. It's a fantastic fight to watch. I really enjoyed this one, and I feel like it's got to be at that number 1 spot, in my opinion. It must be. It was a really good fight with lots of, different emotions whilst watching it. Really, really, really enjoyable fight. And yeah, Beterbiev just ended up getting the better of Yarde, but Great fight. So Bertobia versus Anthony Yarde is my fight of 2020.